Girl bullies classmate for her shoes, surprised to learn her father's job. At Northfield High, Emma was the queen of popularity. With her designer clothes, trendy shoes, and perfect Instagram photos, she was the center of attention. Everyone knew her, and most of the time, she was the one calling the shots, deciding who was in and who was out. Emma prided herself on her status, and part of that status came from her ability to spot anyone who didn't fit her idea of cool. One day at lunch, Emma noticed a new girl sitting quietly at a table alone. Her name was Lily, and she was dressed in worn-out sneakers, faded jeans, and a plain shirt. Unlike Emma, who had everything brand new and fashionable, Lily's clothes were clearly out of style. She wasn't part of the popular crowd, and she definitely didn't look like she belonged at Northfield High. Emma couldn't resist the urge to make a comment. Walking over to Lily's table with her usual crowd of friends trailing behind her, Emma smirked and said, "Are those shoes real, or did you get them at some thrift store?" The laughter from her friends echoed through the cafeteria. Lily didn't say anything. She just lowered her head, clearly embarrassed, and tried to ignore the group. Emma continued, "You know, you could at least try to look like you belong here. Those shoes are embarrassing." Lily gathered her things and left the table, avoiding further confrontation. But Emma's words lingered in the air, and she couldn't help but feel a small sense of satisfaction. She'd taught Lily a lesson today. Little did Emma know, the lesson she would learn about Lily and her family was just beginning. Northfield High was like most typical high schools, filled with cliques, stereotypes, and the constant battle for social dominance. Emma was at the top of the social ladder, surrounded by a group of friends who admired her confidence and appearance. She was one of the popular girls, a title she wore proudly and which she had worked hard to earn. But Emma wasn't just popular because of her personality. It was also her wealth and ability to wear the latest trends without a second thought. Her family had money, and she had access to the best stores, the newest fashion, and the most expensive brands. She was the kind of girl who was always well put together, always on top of the latest trends, and always in control. Lily, on the other hand, had just moved to Northfield from a small town. She came from a modest background, her family living paycheck to paycheck. Her mother worked long hours as a nurse, and her father, a hard-working mechanic, did his best to support his family. Lily wasn't used to the flashy lifestyle Emma enjoyed. She didn't have the luxury of designer shoes or the latest clothes. What she had were clothes that were comfortable, practical, and affordable. When Lily walked into Northfield High, she was immediately struck by the difference between herself and the other students. The girls were dressed in expensive outfits, their shoes pristine, their hair perfectly styled. She felt out of place, but she didn't mind. She had learned from a young age that who you were wasn't defined by what you wore. Still, as she sat down in the cafeteria that day, she couldn't help but notice how different she was from the other students. Emma's attack was swift. She took one look at Lily's worn sneakers and saw an opportunity to make her feel small, to assert her dominance. After all, it wasn't every day that a girl like Lily came into her orbit, and Emma wasn't about to let the new girl think she could blend in. "Those shoes are hideous," Emma had said. It wasn't a random comment, it was a carefully calculated move. Emma didn't know anything about Lily or her family, but it didn't matter. Lily's appearance made her an easy target. In the days that followed, Lily tried her best to avoid Emma. She felt humiliated by the incident and didn't know how to respond. She was used to people judging her for the way she looked, but it still hurt every time. She had learned to keep a low profile in school, but now she felt like she was being singled out for something she couldn't control: her appearance. Meanwhile, Emma went on with her life, as if nothing had happened. Her friends continued to laugh at Lily's expense, and Emma enjoyed the attention. She didn't care about the hurt she'd caused. She had made her point. At least, she thought she had. But soon, something unexpected happened. The principal, Mr. Thompson, called an assembly for the entire school. He asked everyone to gather in the auditorium for an important announcement. As students filed into their seats, murmurs spread across the room. No one knew exactly what was going on, but the atmosphere was electric with curiosity. Lily, sitting near the back, had no idea what was about to unfold. She was just trying to get through the day, to survive another round of judgment and whispers. What she didn't expect was for the principal to announce a special visitor, a local businessman who had come to speak about his work in the community. The man was dressed in an expensive suit, his hair neatly styled, and he carried himself with the confidence of someone used to being in control. "Ladies and gentlemen," Mr. Thompson began, "please welcome Mr. Davis, the CEO of Davis Industries." Lily's heart skipped a beat. Mr. Davis. She recognized the name immediately. Lily's father, Thomas Davis, was the CEO of Davis Industries, a company that had grown from a small family-owned business to one of the most successful corporations in the city. The business was well known for its charitable efforts, and while they had made millions over the years, the Davis family had always kept a low profile, choosing to give back to the community rather than flaunt their wealth. As Mr. Davis stepped onto the stage, he smiled and waved at the students, his eyes scanning the crowd. He stopped briefly, his gaze landing on Lily in the back row. Lily's face turned pale. How could her father be here of all places? Lily felt a mix of emotions, surprise, confusion, and embarrassment. She hadn't expected her father to be the special guest, and she certainly didn't want anyone at school to know about her family's success. But as the principal continued his introduction, Lily realized that her quiet life at Northfield High was about to change forever. As Mr. Davis spoke, he revealed that he had been a supporter of Northfield High for years, funding scholarships and helping the school in many ways. His company had also offered internships to students interested in the field of business, encouraging young people to reach their full potential. The crowd listened intently as he shared stories of how he had started his company from the ground up, and how hard work and dedication had led him to where he was today. But it wasn't just Mr. Davis's speech that made waves. It was the moment he turned to the audience and smiled at Lily. "There's someone very special in this room today," Mr. Davis said, his voice warm and genuine. "My daughter, Lily Davis, is a student here, and I couldn't be prouder of her." The auditorium went silent for a moment, as students turned to look at Lily in disbelief. Emma's jaw dropped. The new girl, the one she had mocked for her shoes, was the daughter of the CEO of one of the largest companies in the city. Lily, the quiet, humble girl, had been hiding a secret that Emma never could have imagined. Lily's face was red with embarrassment as she tried to shrink into her seat. She hadn't wanted anyone to know about her father's wealth or status, but now the truth was out. And with it, the dynamics of her school life were about to change forever. Emma, who had once thought she was untouchable, now realized that she had made a huge mistake. She had mocked the one person who was actually far more important than she could ever imagine. And now, everyone knew. The aftermath of the assembly was filled with whispers and stares. Emma, who had once been the queen of the social ladder, now felt the sting of her own actions. Her friends, who had once laughed along with her, now looked at her with judgment. The popular crowd, which had once followed her every word, was starting to drift away. Lily, on the other hand, remained calm and composed. She didn't let the attention change who she was. She wasn't interested in the spotlight, and she didn't want to be defined by her father's success. She continued to keep to herself, focusing on her studies and staying true to her values of kindness and humility. Emma, filled with guilt, tried to apologize. She approached Lily in the hallway the next day, her voice shaky. "Lily, I'm really sorry about what I said. I didn't know. I didn't realize who you were." Lily looked at her for a moment, then smiled politely. "It's okay, Emma. People make mistakes. I hope you learned something from this." Emma nodded, feeling both relieved and ashamed. She realized that sometimes the most important lessons don't come from textbooks. They come from the people we least expect to teach us. From that day forward, Emma changed. She became more humble, more understanding, and more aware of the impact of her words. She no longer judged people based on their appearance or status. And though it wasn't easy, she worked hard to rebuild the relationships she had damaged. The story of Emma and Lily serves as a powerful reminder that we should never judge others based on their outward appearances. We live in a world where superficial judgments are often made too quickly, but this story teaches us the importance of looking beyond the surface and recognizing that everyone has their own unique story. In Emma's case, she learned that her assumption that Lily was just another poor girl was wrong. Her behavior towards Lily was driven by her own insecurities and assumptions, but once she learned the truth about Lily's family, she saw that her actions were both hurtful and misguided. The lesson Emma learned was humbling. Never assume you know someone's story until you take the time to understand it. Lily, on the other hand, showed us the power of humility. Despite her family's success, she chose to live quietly and avoid unnecessary attention. She didn't feel the need to flaunt her wealth or status because she understood that who she was as a person was far more important than any label society might place on her. In the end, this story reminds us that we are all more than what we wear, the cars we drive, or the jobs our families hold. What truly matters is our character, how we treat others, and the kindness we show. Both Emma and Lily learned valuable lessons that would shape the way they saw the world, and ultimately, the way they treated the people around them. And so, the lesson is clear. Before we judge others, we must first look beyond the surface and remember that everyone has a story that deserves respect.